The H1B Guy here, and today, the H1B Guy news for the week ending September 25th, 2020. But before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't already, to please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube. It helps me to produce more content like this for you. I also wanted to mention that the H1B Guy offers consulting services, whether that be one to one or one to many. I can offer you peace of mind in the form of advisory consulting and case review management. If I can help you, please reach out. I'd love to hear how. Now, the news. September 21st, 2020. In an article written by Ted Hessen for Reuters titled Trump Officials Rough to Make It Tougher for Skilled Foreign Workers to Gain Visas. Quote, Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia told Reuters that his department planned to raise H-1B wage requirements in light of Trump's June proclamation. There's been concern for a long time that wages at which H-1B workers are allowed to be brought into the country are too low and are undercutting U.S. workers' wages, Scalia said in an interview. That's never acceptable, but totally intolerable when you've got millions of Americans still out of work because of the pandemic. Some advocates of reforming the H-1B program are also skeptical. If they really had prioritized this and cared about it, they would have gone and done it months ago, if not years ago, said Daniel Costa, Director of Immigration Law and Policy Research for the left-leaning Economic Policy Institute. Really nothing new here, but I wanted to discuss the Department of Labor Secretary Eugene Scalia's quotes. I interpreted his quotes from the article as the pandemic has given President Trump's administration the authority to put the full court press on the H-1B visa and the temporary foreign worker. Pre-COVID, the economy was roaring and unemployment was at an all-time low. The administration could not disrupt the human capital pipelines when that was the case. Q March 15th, 2020. Overnight, millions of Americans became unemployed, and yet the technology sector unemployment has still remained low even as of today. In an article written by Elena Gordon for The World titled The Pandemic Raises Fears for Immigrant Doctors Whose Status in the U.S. is Uncertain, published on September 22nd, 2020. Quote, in the United States, around 250,000 doctors are immigrants, representing 1 in 4 doctors, according to the Migrant Policy Institute. The overall percentage is higher in rural and lower income areas where immigrant doctors often fill essential positions in areas with healthcare shortages. It's hard to find an exact number, but one advocacy group, Physicians for American Healthcare Access, or PAHA, estimates that approximately 12,000 doctors, mainly from India and China, are in limbo, continuing to re-up temporary work visas while sitting on wait lists for green cards. This article was making its way around social media this past week. I wanted to cover it because I wanted to continue the conversation around medical professionals, primarily doctors, that are living and working in this country on the front lines battling the pandemic, specifically in lower income and less populated areas. One thing we haven't discussed, but we will do so sometime in the next few weeks, is Senate Bill 3599, the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act. This Senate bill is a game changer for medical professionals, and it would create an entirely new status altogether, removing them from under the H-1B designation. More on S3599 in a few weeks. And now, what you've all been waiting for. September 24th, 2020. The U.S. Department of State, Bureau of Consular Affairs, released the Visa Bulletin from October of 2020. The final action dates for EB1 through EB3 categories moved roughly about 3 months forward. And there has not been any movement in any of these categories over the last 3 bulletins. But the biggest news came from the filing dates and some clarification at the very bottom of the bulletin. Filing dates. EB1 for China and India moved up to September 1st, 2020. EB2 for China, October 16th, 2016. EB2 for India, May 15th, 2012. EB3 for China, June 1st, 2018. And the biggest jump, EB3 for India, January 1st of 2015. Later in the day, USCIS posted the following update. For employment-based preference filings, all employment-based preference categories, you must use the dates for the filing chart in the Department of State Visa Bulletin for October of 2020. For the last two fiscal years, from October to February, USCIS has accepted filing dates, then transitioned to final action dates from March to September. This is huge news for those in EB3 whose priority dates fall under this forward movement. Now, here's the reality. There aren't enough green cards for everyone who's now eligible for adjustment of status. There have been rumors of a family-based preference green card surplus from fiscal year 2020, but that would only increase the overall employment-based numbers by an estimated 80%. So what does that mean for several thousand H1Bs working in the U.S. with a current priority date under EB3? Well, I'm interpreting it most likely to mean a GCEAD with advanced parole rights. This is the freedom of choice in travel we've been talking about. Many of you in EB2 have reached out in the last 24 hours and asked me what you should do. My advice, as of right now, is to stay put. Immigration attorneys will tell you that you can do it. Guess what? They get paid to prepare those forms. Now, if you're with the same employer that filed your perm labor and approved I-140 and you're an EB2 with a priority date that would be current under EB3, then you may be considering downgrading as an option. I'd advise you against it. But you can definitely downgrade and the risk may be minimal for you. It's really up to you if you want to risk to try to be first in line. Downgrading does not require a new perm labor, but will require a new I-140 to be filed under EB3 porting the EB2 date. The I-485 can also be filed in conjunction with the I-140. If you're currently with a different employer, I'd be more hesitant as it requires a few more additional steps. The last point I'll make is this. Last night, I advised a good friend of mine who's an EB2 with a 2012 priority date and has been with the same employer to sit tight. I think it's best to see what the November bulletin looks like before doing anything. And he and I even talked about waiting through the end of the year. He's waited a long time, and I asked, what is another month or two? Things seem to be changing radically, almost on a daily basis in the current employment immigration climate. My instinct tells me to advise you to sit back and wait till the election. If you scroll down all the way to the very end of the October Visa Bulletin, buried at the very bottom, you'll find this little gem of information. Admittedly, I didn't scroll all the way down, and I missed this in my initial review. It talks about employment-based categories, potential monthly movement. EB1, EB2, and EB3 all show China and India with rapid forward movement. And then underneath that it states, the above final action date projections for the family and employment categories indicate what is likely to happen on a monthly basis through January. The determination of the actual monthly final action dates is subject to fluctuations in applicant demand and a number of variables. What does this mean and what are they alluding to? Let's hope rapid forward movement is exactly what we think it is. Let's hope advanced parole rights are issued to those who have waited a long time for equality. Oh, and you may want to go ahead and think about booking your medical tests if you think you have a chance to fall under this rapid forward movement category. They require a USCIS certified doctor, and the findings are valid for 12 months. If you are itching to do something, start there. Very exciting news from the bulletin yesterday. Thanks to every one of you who reached out to get my advice and gain my opinion. I'm truly humbled by that. Thank you. For the full post on the H1B Guy news for the week ending September 25th, 2020, check out the H1BGuy.com. And the lineup for next week on Monday, we'll review the H1B Workforce Grant Program, which the Department of Labor released very quietly late yesterday, September 24th, 2020. On Tuesday, I'll recommend the H1B EAD, a merit-based immigration visa, Phase 2. Wednesday, I'll dissect H1B denials through Q2 fiscal year 2020. If you've made it this far, I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch my content. Your support really means a lot. If you haven't already, please like this video, please subscribe to the H1B Guy channel here on YouTube, and click the bell for notifications so that you're notified anytime a new post goes up on the channel. The H1B Guy, your global source for all things H1B.